Hi, Jim.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. So, our scripture story for today comes from Mark, the first chapter of Mark. And Jesus has done a number of healings, and his influence is slowly expanding in Mark. That's the beginning of the story. So, he did a healing, and people in the local area found out. And then he went across a lake and did another healing. And now he's back on the home side, and a man with a skin disease comes to him. And sometimes we hear about this as leprosy, but it's something that would have been obvious on his skin and something that would have kept him from being a participant in society. Like he would need to not let other people touch him. So he comes to Jesus and says to him, I know that you can heal me, and I believe that you want to. Will you heal me? And Jesus
Wow.
says, yes, I'm willing to heal you. And he kind of reaches out his hand and heals the man. And then says to him very sternly, okay, don't go and tell anyone, just go to the priests and tell them what happened. Go to the priest, tell them what happened, and they will approve you, and then don't tell anyone else. And so what does he do? He doesn't go to the priest. He just goes and tells everyone that he knows. And so then after that, Jesus can't go into the towns, and he has to go somewhere new where they haven't heard of him yet. And he has to stay out in the wilderness, and people come to him to receive healing. So that is the story and the gospel for today. So what are you hearing in this story? What is interesting to you about it?
Well, I mean, I like that we keep on doing these healing readings. I think they're good. And they help us really reflect on what it means to be healthy and not healthy and how we fit in society. And that's the first thought, obviously. But then, what's actually jumping out too is the sense that Jesus wants him to keep it quiet, meaning there's something dangerous about both illness and wellness, because people might want to know him more or be around him more because he can make someone well. But also there's this desire, once you're healed, this man immediately wants to tell people and be around people because he's been so isolated.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely know that is relevant right now as our feeling of isolation. And so I guess my reflection is something around information and knowing how we are, if we're well or not well, and how that might make us feel either part of a group or not part of a group. I don't know. That's kind of what's immediately coming to me as so many helicopters are flying over our neighborhood. Wow. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I saw in the reflection. Weird.
Yeah.
So I had a chance to do some reading into some commentaries, and I noticed in the translation I read, there's a part where the man asks Jesus, please heal me, right? Or if you want to,
Yeah.
heal me. And Jesus says, I'm willing. And then
Isn't
it
it sort of
says,
leading? If you choose to, you could make me clean. That's
if you choose to,
a little
right? And
passive aggressive.
there's like this way where you could be translating it as since or if. Anyway, it's like since you choose to, it's kind of like in between those two. But the next thing is, I'd always heard it as filled with compassion. But in the next translation that I read, it said incensed. And I was like, incensed? And so I think it's really interesting because Jesus is super mad. He's like mad in this way of understanding it, which I think is probably the weirder original. I mean, it's like the less, he's angry, and then he heals the man, and then he continues to like be angry and say, go and like he sends him out. He's got all this anger in his healing. And I think when I think of healing, I think of like gentleness and calm and like loving energy, which I think is often how it is, but we have an image of Jesus as always being very gentle. And in Mark, in this story, he is, if this translation is right, he's not. He's healing angry.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And also it reminds me too of all the different emotions that I've noticed from people in the last couple of days. You know, that I think more and more we're going to start knowing people that are testing positive for coronavirus or
Mhm.
COVID-19. And it'll be interesting to see how we respond to them when we know that they're not well.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's easy now in the beginning stages when we don't know anybody and it's a distant thing. But it becomes part of our lives, our family, our neighbors.
Mhm.
It'll be interesting to see how we hold on to our faith and our love when
Mhm.
we are when we have to interact even in a distant way with people that we know are not well. And you know, we've talked at Church in the Square a lot about the sense of people that are sick or mentally ill or physically disabled.
Mhm.
Sometimes we treat them as if they're pariah
Yeah.
because of what's happening to them or what they've experienced.
Mhm.
And uh, more than anything, what I think will happen after this pandemic sweeps through our country is for us to see that no one can escape.
Yeah.
Uh, this is a real equalizing environment. And I hope that it will, instead of the initial shock of stay away from me, that
Mhm.
there'll be the sense of you are my sister, you are my brother, as we find more and more people that are close to us that are dealing with this.
Mhm.
And so I think all of us will be challenged when we engage and know, as this virus sweeps through our nation, people that are going to be hurt by this pandemic. How
Yeah.
do we respond? You
Yeah.
know, I don't know. That's kind
That's
of one of my thoughts. Yeah.
um I had somebody, a friend, post on Facebook about how she has some immune issues and she's been dealing with this
Mhm.
isolation for like years. She's had to
Yeah.
isolate herself. And so it is not the same, but it is really interesting to think about how all of us are in a similar boat of needing to,
Mhm.
of experiencing that thing that had previously been only people who were dealing with immune issues.
And think about it this way: that individual who before now has had a skill set that we didn't value.
Right.
Suddenly we say, here, can I sit at your feet? Tell me how you know to live with this feeling of isolation.
Right.
I think there's a weird power shift or an information shift that's happening right now of people that we have not valued suddenly knowing how to live in this world in a way that we've not understood before. I don't know, there's something there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
please, all of you in the community that are watching this, lead with love. This is a difficult time. Be compassionate and careful with yourself and with others. That's how I feel. Amy, you have anything
Mm,
else to say?
just well, I'm still left thinking about Jesus being angry and what is he angry at, and is it the person with the skin disease, or is it the disease and the system that it's
Oh
causing?
yeah, yeah,
And so I think there's room for anger in love. I think
yes,
that's something that I'm hearing.
that's good.
But I
I
don't
like it a
have
lot.
like a specific application at this moment.
Hmm.
Just to say, we do want to. Um, we're learning about caring for people through our boundaries,
Yeah,
and
and that's very difficult,
I,
but it's
yeah,
going to be a powerful lesson for us.
yeah.
Remember, people, that we have Bible study tonight at 7 o'clock. If you want to learn how to be on there, we're going to post it up on the Facebook group and page, so you'll have the login information. And I hope to see some of you tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Take care,
Okay,
Amy. Be
take care, everybody.
safe. Be well.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.